Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The colonial capital of La Republic du Cameroon, Yaoundé, has recently proven to be a killer ground for Ambazonians. Amazonian settlers in Yaoundé and those just visiting Yaoundé are not safe. They are being attacked on a daily basis on different fronts. If it is not being robbed by robbers, they are attacked and making away with their properties or kidnapping them for ransom. They are also sexually exploited by their colonial employers. While this terrible act is being perpetrated against the peace-loving peoples of Amazonia, the CPD and militants of the southern zone of Amazonia and those in Faco County in particular have taken a firm commitment to protect and guard jealously La Republic du Cameroon's annexationist project realized and those yet to be realized under the colonial genociders' plan for the reconstruction and development of the southern zone. With a daily reoccurrence of oppression, can Amazonians protect their dignity as a people? We wonder. Well, we'll get into the prime headlines to usher us into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight.
Well, these are the prime headlines for today. The interim government's lockdown paralyzes movement between Yaoundé and Buea. The failed colonial Republic de Cameroon Yaoundé junta goes to the rescue of flood victims in Buea local government area. Bad roads accused for the Mambongi road accident with many passengers injured. Also today, Cum Kingsley boarded a taxi, regained consciousness in hospital with no belongings. Sad again, three more Amazonians fleeing the scourge of the senseless war die on the high sea. Also today, an Amazonian refugee couple blessed with quadruplets need financial assistance. Let's see how we can help. But then let's get the news in detail.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age, and not with Undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution and Amazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Amazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Amazonia need to counter the media rage?
Indeed, how much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Amazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, 1992, Amazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amba TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amba TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Amazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Amazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
Following the inhuman and gruesome killing of two university students of Buea last week by a certain notorious La Republic du Cameroon soldier based in Buea by name Moja Moja, and the call from the President of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, Dr. Samuel Ikomesako, for a national day of mourning and lockdown, especially for Fako County, in 2023 March. Transport buses that ply the Yaoundé Buea halted their businesses in those 2 days for the fear of the unknown. Now, we're going to be taking a look at all the activities that happened on those 2 days. But first, this is where we will begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. I am Onyi Oba. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, very well, Onyi. Good evening, Ambazonians. Reports reaching Undaunted Monday and Tuesday say some transport agencies in the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's capital, Yaoundé, are grounded their vehicles on the seas of mourning and postponed all travels arrangements to the southern zone of Amazonia for fear of attacks from Amazonian freedom fighters for disrespecting instructions from the people's interim government. While Undaunted source added that the transport agency took the decision after they were tipped about the visit of the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's Minister Paul Atanganji to Boya and fearing Amazonian freedom fighters could launch attacks to disrupt the Yaoundé colonial minister's visit. Some transport agencies reportedly told passengers they would make any travels to the southern zone of Amazonia that day.
Well, worthy to note is that the president's call reiterated national mourning for the entire homeland for 2 days and a particular lockdown for Fako County, where the odious act took place for 2 days. Meanwhile, Monday's rest days remained en vogue across Amazonia.
And now on to the next report. The CPDM rogue government having failed for over 60 years to carry out any effective development in the entire Amazonia and being unable to preempt catastrophes even from Mount Faco, from which the colonial occupier has been reaping and feeding fat, today has shamelessly gone to give peanuts to victims of a disaster which was preventable for any proactive regime having the lives of denizens at heart. While reports reaching Undaunted say victims of the unprecedented floods that swept Boya local government area last weekend have been handed relief packages from the colonial La Republic du Cameroon's rogue government on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023.
Colonial La Republic de Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atangi Nji, was charged to come and flatter victims with the corrupt assistance from Yaoundé. Imagine that a catastrophe of such great magnitude that took away human lives, damaged property enormously, the thriving and the annoying Yaoundé junta will be presenting a mattress, buckets, blankets, some bars of soap, tins of sardines, and a bag of rice. And the Republic de Cameroon slave Atangi Nji will say, in quote, symbolic from the colonial La Republic de Cameroon Paul Biya, as he flatters the victims that they can expect more. Expect what exactly?
Well, demolition of houses sitting on waterways in Boya is currently going on. And this is going on after the flash floods over the weekend. All houses illegally built are to be destroyed. The question is, if there was any town planning, would this be necessary in the first place? Was adequate time given for residents to move out? All of this is to inflict pain on the suffering peoples of Amazonia, unfortunately. Well, on to our next report, we're going to take a look at the different roads constructed by neighboring La Republic du Cameroon.
Well, the different roads constructed by the neighboring La Republic de Cameroon and Amazonia are nothing close compared to the roads. They only construct pathways for their heavy capacity vehicles to pass without considering their population without such high quality vehicles as theirs. These roads are now killer machines with the toll of accidents recorded daily. Traveling within Amazonia or out of Amazonia is a tough task as one has to win the psychological battle with the bad nature of the roads before embarking on the journey properly.
Well, passengers tired from the whole night's journey had no choice but to mount a bike to Akum before taking a taxi to Bamenda. Yesterday, March 22nd, a passenger bus at Mabongi, an area of the Mutengene to Kumba Road, in an attempt to maneuver around potholes, overturned and landed in a valley with all the passengers on board. It is only after regaining complete independence that the people of the Federal Republic of Amazonia will see and enjoy a well-constructed road and not the dead traps La Republic du Cameroon is putting up. How come Amazonians cannot boast of a single good road after this long period of an unholy union with La Republic du Cameroon? How come?
Passengers sustained injuries as the bus lost control and landed in the valley of Mabonji en route to Kumba. This accident occurred on Wednesday, March 22nd, after a driver of a bus of one of the travel agencies in Kumba, unable to control the bus through the numerous potholes on the highway, landed the car in the valley.
Well, in a video captured by one of our volunteers who showed up for a rescue operation, passengers are seen being carried from the valley through a slope to the main road for first aid or evaluation. In a press time, no death has been recorded. Sources confirmed that those with severe injuries were evacuated to the hospital for proper medical attention.
Where my son? Don't take it off. Yeah, nobody, don't take it off. Don't take it off. Don't go, calm down, it's fine. You should go down, don't down. I put him down in Kumba. Lad, you have put now in Kumba. Yes, Mabunji. Motor don't fall. Coaster don't fall inside hole. But how will do all this money? These are the victims in the valley. In the valley. Much more. Come, come. Come, Papa. I beg when I look up for me, passion for them carry go hospital. Them carry go hospital. These are the victims. These are the victims. Happening live, Mabunji. These are the victims. These are the victims. They carry them to hospital now. Have we? These are the victims. These are the victims. These are the victims. Mabunji live, Mabunji. Now like this. Happening now, live. These are the victims. Mabunji. Again. Mabunji. I bet we'll tell you go come. Mabunji live. Mabunji live. This is Mabunji. That's the name Mabunji.
Well, 3 Southern Cameroonians Ambazonians are reported to be among several people who died after a boat sank on the southwestern coast of Turkey. Undaunted gathers that the Ambazonian victims are 2 women and a man who were identified amongst victims of the incident that occurred on the night of March 13th.
The Colonial Republic of Cameroon ambassador in Turkey, Victor Chawowo, has said in a release that their bodies has been kept at the Izmir mortuary in Turkey pending identification and collection. The embassy invites the families and other members of the La Republic of Cameroon community in Turkey who would be in search of a relative or friend to kindly provide all identification documents, including photos, which can facilitate the ongoing research conducted by the delegation of the Colonial La Republic of Cameroon embassy officials who are hard at work in Izmir.
This is the day plight of most Southern Cameroon's Ambazonians and even some Francophone Cameroonese using the Ambazonian War of Independence and hardship in La Republic of Cameroon to look for greener pastures elsewhere.
All right, moving on. The colonial capital of La Republic of Cameroon, Yaoundé, has recently proven to be a killer ground for Ambazonians. Ambazonian settlers in Yaoundé and those just visiting Yaoundé are not safe. They are being attacked daily on different fronts. If it is not armed robbers that are attacking and making away with their properties or kidnapping them for ransom, they are sexually exploited by their colonial employers. A young Ambazonian early this week, Cum Kinsley, visiting Yaoundé to honor an appointment at the Canadian Embassy, is drugged on board a taxi with all his possessions stolen. The question is, what accounts for the high crime wave at the town hosting President Paul Biya of La Republic of Cameroon?
Well, a young Amazonian has been attacked on board a taxi with all his belongings taken away from him after being drugged. The victim, that Undaunted got the name as Cum Kinsley, only regained consciousness in the hospital, and a Good Samaritan picked him up after being dumped by the road by his attackers. And this happened earlier this week. Cum Kinsley visited Yaoundé with a mission of going to the Canadian Embassy in the Cameroons for a trip in an attempt to secure a Canadian visa. Reaching Yaoundé Monday 20th, 2023, Cum took a taxi with the destination Canadian Embassy.
Well, along the way, Cum Kinsley was drugged on board the taxi after his attackers collected all from him. They pulled him out and dumped him by the roadside, still unconscious. A passerby rescued Cum from the gutter and took him to the hospital for a checkup and possible treatment. After regaining consciousness, all Cum could remember is that he boarded a taxi and nothing more. This is coming just a month after the lifeless bodies of Buea University students was found in an isolated area in Yaoundé after spending months with kidnappers. Also, the CPDM militants of the Southern Cameroons and those in Fako County in particular have taken a firm commitment to protect and guard jealously. La République du Cameroon's annexationist project realized and those yet to be released under the colonial genocidal presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the southern zone. During home front himself to inspect these annexationist projects was John Ngote's errand boy, made the colonial La République du Cameroon's minister, director of cabinet at the prime minister's office, president of the steering committee of the said dictator and tyrant Bia's so-called reconstruction of war-torn plan.
Well, Undaunted learned that during Mbune's meeting with the beneficiaries, local development actors, and implementing partners at the Boya Mountain Hotel, the activity report for 2022 was presented and that the meeting held on the high instruction of the colonial Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dionangute. On his part, the colonial La Republique du Cameroon CPDM Mayor of Boya, Mafani Namange, saluted the colonial La Republique du Cameroon's minister for choosing Boya, despite the challenge brought about by the flood that hit the municipality on Saturday, March 18th.
Well, the CPDM mayor also expressed gratitude to the colonial genocidal head of state Biya for his so-called presidential plan to the people of Boya local government area. Undaunted gathered that the colonial La Republique du Cameroon's president of the steering committee of the presidential plan paid tribute to the victims of the flood disaster and then visited some of the projects, such as the Boya Town Islamic School, St. Joseph College, Egwongo and Wututu in Victoria local government area, and the Bakingili Healthcare Center.
Well, the La Republique du Cameroon's errand boy, Balungeli Confiance Ebune, expressed satisfaction with the job done so far and thanked their partners for the support given so far, adding that he will hand a report of these developments to his colonial boss in La Republique du Cameroon and appealed to those who are still holding arms or using the social media to create chaos, quote, in the Amba land to embrace peace. Undaunted notes that the colonial CPDM president of the steering committee was accompanied all through the visit by CPDM pages like Colonial La Republique du Cameroon's governor, Okalia Belai, the president of the presidential plan for the reconstruction of the northern zone and southern zone, Obase Tamanjong, as well.
How colonial La Republique du Cameroon thinks it can reconstruct war-torn Ambazonia while the war rages on, and at the time like this when La Republique du Cameroon is corrupt and bankrupt should be one of the miracles in recent times.
All right, now on to this very interesting report. A mother and her quadruplet. This young couple has been displaced by the War of Independence ongoing in Ambazonia, and even though they were blessed with 9 children, they need financial assistance to make ends meet. The war relocated them to the neighboring La Republique du Cameroon town of Bonaberi near Douala.
The husband, who gave his name as Diodone, says their landlord has even driven them out of the house for non-payment of rent. God has blessed the couple severely, with the woman having 9 children in 5 deliveries, 3 singles, twins, and quadruplets. The couple hails from Nkambe local government area, Donga Manchun County. Now let's take a look.
We give 9 picking them. So now again I'm 9 picking them and born 5 times. I will be very surprised. Even the doctor too will be surprised because he says maybe knows in a 4 picking them there for the belly. So it means the one behind at the top for the general public say if you be a blessing for me because to breastfeed this 4 picking them not will be easy. And I'm a teacher by profession, teaching with the private sector, so I didn't know say it don't be easy. Come from Cambe, don't have my division. My woman will give 4 children, 4 twins. When we go to hospital, the time is not till have your hospital today, so I say now 4. So me, I did down since almost 2 years I don't work. As last I get for landlord has I did I go 2 months. One between my woman, 1 4 children, 1 boys. So I didn't need help anymore if you help me. Yankanturu. So they bonabelly. Concern for Jadon.
Well, that's about it. But now on to West Africa, Nigeria. The governorship of the Labour Party, Alex Oti, has been declared the winner of the Abia State governorship election. And we learned from Premium Times that the returning officer for the election, Nena Oti, made the declaration at the State Collation Center, Umuahia, the state capital, on Wednesday.
Well, Mrs. Oti, a professor and vice chancellor of the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, Imo State, Nigeria, made the declaration after collating results from Obingwa local government area of the state. While there are some controversies, the Premium Times reported that the Independent National Electoral Commission had, on Monday, suspended the collation of governorship results from the council area over an alleged attack on its officials and had some irregularities as well.
Well, the Commission on Wednesday said it had completed the review of the disrupted and the disputed results and okayed the continuation of results collation from the Council. In the Obingwa local government area results, the LP candidate polled a total of 3,776, while the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP candidate Oke Ahiwe, scored a total of 962 votes.
Well, the final results showed that the Labour Party candidate won in 10 local government areas, while the PDP candidate won in 6 local government areas. The candidate of the Young Progressive Party won in a local government called Osisi Omal local government area, where he also hails from.
Well, there are 17 local government areas in the state, while Mr. Oti, the Labour Party candidate, polled a total of 172,386 votes to defeat his closest rival, the candidate of the PDP, Mr. Ahiwe, who garnered a total of 88,174 votes.
Well, the returning officer, Professor Nena Oti, declared the Labour Party candidate the winner at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Umuahia, the state capital, on Wednesday afternoon after completing the suspended collation of results. Now, let's take a look at the reaction of the youth. All right, while we are still trying to get that, we gathered from Nigeria that the youths of the state were excited about that particular results declaration.
All right, meanwhile, the lawsuit filed against INEC has had some interesting recent development, having more Nigerian political parties file for the nullification of the declaration of Bola Tinubu of All Progressive Congress, APC, as president-elect by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. OB yesterday, Wednesday, asked the Presidential Election Petition Court, PEPC, to declare him as the authentic winner of the February 25th presidential elections.
Well, in the petition filed by his team of lawyers, including 13 senior advocates of Nigeria, among who are Dr. Laivi Uzoku Awekalu Unyechi Bazu, Chief Sebastian, Honorable Jubrin Oputer, his request on the grounds that he and not Tinubu scored majority of lawful votes cast at the presidential poll. Now, the petition was contained in a suit number CA/PEPC 01/2023, while that of the APM was CA/PEPC/03/2023, and that of the Labour Party was marked as CA/PEPC/04/2023.
Atiku swelled the list with his petition filed on Tuesday in Abuja. Although details of the application by PDP candidate were yet to be made available in the petition marked /PEPC/05/2023, Atiku and his party had since faulted the entire process that led to the emergence of Tinubu as president-elect. The petition marked CA/PEPC/03/2023 and filed by Uzoku was predicated on 3 grounds, amongst which were that Tinubu, as at the time of the election, was not qualified to contest the election, The election of Tinubu was invalid by reason of corrupt practices or non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, and that Tinubu was not duly elected by majority of the lawful votes cast at the presidential elections.
While Obi and Labour Party are the petitioners in the suit dated March 20th, 2023, INEC, Tinubu, Shetima, and the APC are first, second, third, and fourth respondents respectively. In the first ground of the petition, Obi and the Labour Party argued that their nomination of Shetima as vice president was done in violation of the law and as such should be disqualified. According to the petitioners, as at the time Shetima purportedly became a vice presidential candidate, he was still the nominated senatorial candidate of the APC for the senatorial election for the Borno Central senatorial constituency.
Well, besides, Obi and Labour Party also insisted that Tinubu was, at the time of the election, not qualified to contest for election to the office of president as he was fined the sum of 460,000 US dollars for an offense involving dishonesty, namely narcotics trafficking, imposed by the United States District Court, Northern District of Illinois, Eastern Division, in case number 93C4483. Documents they intend to tender in proving their claim include a verified complaint for feature submitted by Michael J. Shepard, United States Attorney, and signed by Marsha A. McClellan, Assistant United States Attorney.
All the alleged corrupt practices or non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, it was the case of the petitioners that INEC, the fourth respondents, failed to transmit results electronically as stipulated by the law. Mr. Peter Obi and Labour Party contended on the deployment of the Biomodal Voter Accreditation System (BVAS), Election Results Collation System, and the INEC Results Viewing Portal were aimed at giving the election necessary transparency and credibility.
While they claim that despite a court order, INEC refused to give and issue those forms and refused to allow the inspection of the forms, as we reported recently. The court case vis-a-vis Labour Party's lawsuit against All Progressive Congress is still heated in the court. As always, we'll bring you up to speed with any recent developments from here.
All right, still on the foreign scene, on Monday we brought you the 12-point discussion the Chinese president planned on discussing with the Ukrainian president. Well, during the meeting with Vladimir Putin, he said he will discuss Xi Jinping's 12-point plan to settle the acute crisis in Ukraine during a highly anticipated visit to Moscow by the Chinese president. Well, we discussed that 12 points with you here. Well, we are always open for a negotiation process, where he said, as the leaders called each other their friends. Interesting.
Well, that's not all. China released a plan to end the war last month, and it includes ceasing hostilities and resuming peace talks. But then on Friday, the US warned the peace plan could be a stalling tactic. On the other hand, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the world should not be fooled by any tactical move by Russia, supported by China or any other country, to freeze the war on its own terms. He added, calling for a ceasefire that does not include the removal of Russian forces from Ukrainian territory would effectively be supporting the ratification of Russia's conquest.
Well, China's plan did not specifically say that Russia must withdraw from Ukraine, which Ukraine has insisted as a precondition for any talks. Instead, it talked of respecting the sovereignty of all countries, adding that all parties must stay rational and exercise restraint and gradually de-escalate the situation. The plan also condemned the usage of unilateral sanctions, seen as a veiled criticism of Ukraine's allies in the West.
On Monday, a military band gave Mr. Xi a warm welcome to Moscow. Mr. Putin hailed China for observing the principles of justice and pushing for undivided security for every country. In return, Mr. Xi told Mr. Putin, under your strong leadership, Russia has made great strides in its prosperous development. I'm confident that the Russian people will continue to give you their firm support, he said. Before Mr. Xi's arrival, Mr. Putin wrote in China's People's Daily newspaper that the two nations would not be weakened by aggressive US policies.
Publicly, Ukrainian leaders have been emphasizing the common ground they have with China respecting sovereignty and territorial integrity. But privately, they have been lobbying for a meeting or telephone call between President Volodymyr Zelensky and Mr. Xi. The fear in Kyiv is that China's support for Russia, currently based around technology and trade, might become military potentially, including artillery shells.
Well, if China does move to openly supply weapons to Russia, it will in effect be taking part in the conflict on the side of the aggressor. This was said by Oleksiy Danilov, the Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council. It was in Beijing's interest to stabilize the relationship with Russia, with which it shares a 4,300 kilometers, that is 2,700 miles border, said UG, research fellow on China at Chatham House.
Well, Russia is a source of oil for Beijing's huge economy and is seen as a partner in standing up to the US. Ms. Yu added that Mr. Xi had just scored a diplomatic victory in mediating between Iran and Saudi Arabia, which have now resumed diplomatic ties. The meeting comes after the International Criminal Court, ICC, issued an arrest warrant for the Russian president over war crime allegations.
Well, this means Mr. Putin could technically be arrested in 123 countries, though neither China nor Russia are on that list. Making a trip to Moscow so soon after the ICC's announcement suggests China feels no responsibility to hold the Kremlin accountable for atrocities in Ukraine, Mr. Blinken said.
Western leaders have been attempting since last February to associate or isolate Russia following its full scale invasion of Ukraine. But they have been unable to establish a global consensus with China. Not just China, India, and several African nations reluctant to condemn Mr. Putin.
We the people, ABC Amba TV, Ambazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Ambazonia, connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, Africa's best.
All right, next is sports. iNews owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Qatari banker Sheikh Jassim are set to submit new bids to buy Manchester United after a deadline was extended at their request amid confusion on Wednesday night.
Well, in basketball, Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant said the fan reaction helped him a lot. On his return from an 8-game ban, Morant, 23, was suspended without pay by the NBA after a video showed him holding a gun in a Colorado nightclub. Gabellison has more.
Appointed as Crystal Palace. Latest world sports. Football. Roy Hodgson reappointed as Crystal Palace manager until end of season. The former England manager Roy Hodgson has been reappointed as Crystal Palace boss until the end of the season. Patrick Vieira, who replaced Hodgson at Selhurst Park in July 2021, was sacked by Palace on Friday after a 12-match winless run in all competitions. Sports. Football. Manchester United takeover. Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim to submit new bids as deadline extended amid confusion. Ineos owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Qatari banker Sheikh Jassim are set to submit new bids to buy Manchester United after a deadline was extended at their request amid confusion on Wednesday night. Bidders were told they have until 2100 GMT to submit second, revised bids. BBC Sport has been told several other proposed investors made their submissions by that time. It is unclear when the new deadline will be. Ratcliffe and Sheikh Jassim are the only publicly declared bidders. Initially on Wednesday evening, there had been strong indications from sources close to the pair that they had submitted fresh bids, but it then emerged over the past 48 hours. First the Qatari team and then Ineos had submitted requests to Rain, the investment bank conducting the sale, for more time to make their second offers, which was granted. The situation is described as live and fast-moving by someone close to the talks, but sources insist that both Sheikh Jassim and Ineos are committed to making second bids. However, the twist in the sale process will only reinforce concerns among some fans that American owners, the Glazer family, may decide not to sell the club. Ineos wants to buy the combined Glazer shareholding of about 69%, but the Qataris are targeting 100% of the club. Both sides met with United officials earlier in March. BBC Sport has learned that United officials met 8 different potential investors over a 10-day period of high-level meetings recently, including Ratcliffe and representatives of Sheikh Jassim. The size of the initial bids has not been disclosed, with reports both are in the region of £4.5 billion, but they were clearly far below the £5 to £6 billion valuation that the Glazers have established, a figure that would smash the record £3.71 billion. Whether they or any other prospective bidders are able to submit an offer that persuades the Glazers to sell is the next key question. If not, and with United's fortunes improving significantly in recent months under manager Erik ten Hag, the Americans may well yet decide to retain the club and perhaps instead look to sell a minority stake to the likes of the US hedge fund Elliott Investment Management. The Glazer family said in November they were considering selling United. Announcing its initial bid, Sheikh Jassim's Qatari consortium said the offer plans to return the club to its former glories. Described as a lifelong Manchester United fan, Sheikh Jassim is chairman of Qatari Bank (QIB) and the son of a former Prime Minister of Qatar. The Ineos Group, owned by 70-year-old British billionaire Ratcliffe, has a history of investment in sport and owns French Ligue 1 club Nice and Swiss club Lausanne. Its sporting portfolio also includes high-profile sailing team Ineos Britannia, led by Sir Ben Ansley, and a 5-year partnership with Formula One team Mercedes, while it took over the British-based team Sky in cycling in 2019. At the time of the first bid, it was understood its proposal would emphasize Manchester-born Ratcliffe would be a British custodian for the club and would aim to put the Manchester back into Manchester United. Basketball. NBA. Ja Morant helps Memphis Grizzlies beat Houston Rockets on return from 8-game ban. Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant said the fan reaction helped him a lot on his return from an 8-game ban. Morant, 23, was suspended without pay by the NBA after a video showed him holding a gun in a Colorado nightclub. He returned off the bench in a 131-25 win against the Houston Rockets on Wednesday as the Grizzlies secured the Southwest Division title. "It felt good to be back. Super excited. Glad we were able to get the win," said Morant. He had been available to face the Dallas Mavericks on Monday but sat the game out. Morant played 24 minutes against the Rockets and finished with 17 points, 4 rebounds and 5 assists. "Once I got out there on the court and saw the fans' reaction to me being back, it definitely helped me a lot. Made me feel good inside," he added. Elsewhere, Luka Doncic recorded 30-plus points for the first time this season, the most in an NBA campaign for the Dallas Mavericks, but couldn't stop them losing 127-125 to the Golden State Warriors. Doncic was making his return after a 5-game absence because of a thigh injury and registered a game-high 30 points and 17 assists, while managing a team-high 7 rebounds. Stephen Curry finished with 20 points and a team-high 13 assists for the Warriors, who are 6th in the Western Conference and 3 places above the Mavericks. Tennis. Miami Open 2023 results. Andy Murray loses to Dusan Lajovic in straight sets. Two-time champion Andy Murray suffered a straight set loss to Dusan Lajovic in the first round at the Miami Open. Former world number one Murray, winner in both 2009 and 2013, was beaten 6-4-7-5 by the 76. It comes a week after the fatigued 35-year-old Scot lost to Jack Draper in the third round at Indian Wells. Fellow Brighton Kyle Edmond is also out after losing 7-5-7-5 to Wu Yibing, while Emma Raducanu was defeated in a women's draw by Bianca Andreescu. Murray, currently 52nd in the world, won a remarkable 7 deciding set among several marathon victories in an exhausting opening to his 2023 season. But he was unable to produce the response required after Lajovic, 32, forced the first break of serve in Game 7 and went on to clinch the opening set. Murray hinted that another memorable comeback could be on the cards as he broke back immediately to stay in the second set at 5-5. However, Lajovic moved quickly to extinguish those hopes with another break and was relieved to serve out the match in straight sets when Murray framed the forehand. When I didn't close it out, I thought it's happening again. Lajovic, who will play American Maxime Cressy, said of Murray's ability to battle back. It is a disappointing result for Murray, who had not lost in the opening round of a tournament since early January, and he is now 8-5 overall this season. Some days you obviously don't hit the ball your best, but my movement wasn't great today, Murray said. I served pretty well, but the rest of the game was a bit of a problem. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amba News.
All right, thank you so much, Gab Ellison, for that sports report. And with that sports report, we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, let's take a look off and at our major stories.
Well, tonight we talked about the interim government lockdown paralyzes movement between Yaoundé and Buea. Also, the failed colonial La République du Cameroon's Yaoundé junta going to the rescue of flood victims in Buea local government area. Bad accused for the Mabongi Road accident with many passengers injured.
All right, also today we told you that Cum Kingsley boarded a taxi, regained consciousness in hospital, but couldn't find his belongings. Also, sadly today, 3 more southern Cameroonians fleeing the senseless war died on the high sea. An Ambazonian refugee couple blessed with quadruplets, they need financial assistance. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on Church Stories. On behalf of my co-anchor here, Star Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in.
We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night and God bless you.